Welcome to the Performance Enhancing Podcast. It's like steroids for your brain. A podcast for people looking to live life at their peak potential, chock full of real-world tools and knowledge that you can apply in your life today. By providing you with a lens into the lives, beliefs, practices, and actions of those who are already living extraordinary lives, the Performance Enhancing Podcast will help you shift your mindset or create that change in your daily rituals and habits so you can explode with success in the areas of life that are most important to you. So get ready for another dose of Performance Enhancing Podcast with SatoriPrime. Here's your host, Ilan Ferdman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Performance Enhancing Podcast with your host, Ilan Ferdman. And my guest today is named Ameer Rosic. He's an old friend of mine who is a serial entrepreneur. I don't know why it's taking me so long to finally get him on the show, but it's really interesting. When we first spoke, he was all into the health and fitness world, trying to do the consulting for that. And he was really, really high level, which was pretty amazing. And now he's just working on some incredible projects, which I'm not going to steal his thunder. I'll actually let him explain it to you. But more importantly, what we'll cover in part one of this episode is how to impact global transformation in whatever it is that you do, whether it's entrepreneurial, mindset, service-oriented, etc. The concept of not reacting, but rather responding, and how to do that through a means that he calls self-sabotaging your business. It's not as bad as it sounds. It's actually a really good strategy. We'll also talk about how everything is shifting from education to certain jobs. In fact, Ameer was telling me that in Asia, service jobs like Walmart and McDonald's, for example, are being replaced by holograms, which was astounding. I had no idea. And we just talk about how the Industrial Revolution basically shifted the educational model from one of apprenticeship and mastery to one of spitting out manufacturing workers, and how we've never really adjusted to that. And we discuss how to possibly make that shift. So this is going to be really high-paced. Ameer is a fast talker who has a lot of wisdom and a lot of information. So buckle up and enjoy. All right, everyone, welcome back. I'm here with a really, really special guest. We've actually known each other for quite a while, Ameer, but since then, you've done some amazing things. So I'm really happy that you're here. Everybody, please welcome Ameer Rosic.
Hey, Ilan, it's my pleasure to be here, brother. How you been?
I've been great. So we were just chatting a little bit offline, and Ameer, when I actually met him, and I'm sure he still is, but it's not his main business, is like one of the smartest people when it comes to health. And you've completely pivoted, still use some of that, but tell people what you're passionate about and what you're working on now, and then we'll kind of work through
To summarize, Ilan, I'm passionate about transforming the world, man. You know, like when you look around the world today, there's only a select few of people that kind of like actually leave an impression in your mind. Mm-hmm. They actually have physical real estate in your mind, and they're making an impact in the world. And I remember a talk I was listening from Jim Rohn not too long ago, maybe like a year ago. He was talking about, you know, when you're at your funeral and you're looking at your funeral and people are there, what are they going to say about you? You know, what kind of impact are you leaving on the globe? And that was kind of like my epiphany moment. I'm like, I'm doing cool things, sure, but on the grand scheme of things, man, it's nothing. Like, what am I actually doing in the world? And that's the whole reason why I stopped the health thing and started creating these companies to make a real impact on the globe and transform the world in my image.
Brilliant. So tell people a couple of the projects that you're working on so they get an idea of how global transformation can occur.
Sure. So there's like three main projects. I'll go in order of, I say, the most invested in right now. So there's one is called Repara Clothing. We're actually creating high-tech clothing to protect you from your environment. So our clothing protects you from radiation from your cell phone, from the Wi-Fi, from cell phone towers. It's antimicrobial as well, anti-odor as well. It's actually cooling effect and heating effect. So if you're too hot, it cools you. If you're too cool, it heats you up. And pretty much we want to make clothing protect you, because we can't really control our environment, can we? Right? So if I go to, say, Hong Kong, which I go there a lot of times, it's crazy compared to Toronto, right? And I can't really, pick and choose where I want to go. So I want to have clothing on me physically that protects me regardless of where I go. That's the first one. The second one is something called Zap Hires. We are creating 5 billion jobs in the world. Think of like Uber, right? So if you want an Uber car, you go on your app, you say, hi, Uber, I'm here. The next car is in 10 minutes. It comes and picks you up. It's the same idea. Instead, though, we're looking at talent. So Ilan, say he's the best marketer in the world, and he charges, say, $300 an hour for consultation. Why can't I have the option of going on an app? I type in marketing. I find Ilan there. Whoa, he's only 1 kilometer away from me. Or he's my next door neighbor. I don't know, right? We never talk. And Ilan's charging $300 an hour. He has 1 million reviews from people around the world, right? And he's willing to meet right now this second because I want instant help. I don't want help tomorrow. I don't want help next week. I need help this second. I ping Ilan. Ilan sees my request. And as Ameer, as the buyer, I also have reviews. He's a great person to work with, right? It works both ways. Ilan accepts. We figure out, a designated area to meet, whether my house, his house, Starbucks, Whole Foods, whatever it may be. We meet up. The transaction happens. No cash is transferred. It's all escrowed like Uber, and the rest is history. So think about this. Think of how many people around the world have skills to offer, but you don't know they exist. They may be your next door neighbor. I remember a story. We needed a quick, small contract fix on Reparo in Hong Kong. And I know for a fact that if I didn't get this right, it's going to screw me up in the future. Like hundreds of thousands of dollars I see down the drain. So I'm like, man, I know for a fact in Toronto, there's a lawyer that can help me out right now. Right. And I'm willing to pay $400 to $500 an hour for just one tidbit of information to write on this contract. But I need the information now because I'm talking to lawyers overseas. Right.
Yep.
It irritated me. I'm like, the old fashioned way. Call up my friend who's a lawyer. Hey, do you got a referral? Oh, yeah. 1 second. Then CC this guy, then set up this. I'm like, shit, I need it now. And I know in Toronto, with 4 million people, there has to be one person that does this.
Yep. At least
at least one person. Hey, and I guarantee if I call them, they'll be like, oh, sure, $400, no problem. I'll pick up the phone. Anybody will pick up the phone for $400 an hour, right? And from this frustration and me seeing frustration with a lot of immigrants. So my mom's a nurse at Sick Kids Children's Hospital. I see so many of these people have amazing diplomas and degrees from other countries. They're doctors, they're PhDs, they have masters, but yet they're sweeping the floor over here. You're telling me they have no information, no knowledge to offer me? Bullshit. Of course they do, right? Yeah. Because these stupid legalities and bureaucratic laws that stop us, these systems that stop us from succeeding in our life. So why not have the opportunity, regardless where you are, to sell your services instantly in that city? So if Ilan and Ameer want to go to, say, Paris on a trip, but yet we have our account active, we land in Paris and see like we're one of the best like branders and marketers in the world, and someone wants to hire us for $1,000 an hour, why not? Why not have the ability to meet up in a nice coffee shop at a bistro and talk and get paid? And at the same time, be solving a problem from somebody that has a problem that second. So that's Zap Hires. Right now we're raising money. We're going to be probably super soft launching maybe the next 6 months or so. And that's going to be like my main focus for the next like 2 years is running that company. And my next thing is some food industry thing, but that's in the far end. Like we're making like cricket protein, but like that's in the house. So if people are familiar with, say, insect protein, you can go into your, say, Whole Foods actually sells some of them. You can buy insect protein bars. But instead of you actually going to a store to buy the protein bars or the protein powders from insects, you will have the ability to actually make this in your house automated without you touching anything. It's all plug and play, see you later, unlimited food for you and your family for the rest of your life.
Unbelievable. You know what I love about that whole description is how future-minded you are. That I don't know if you read the book by Peter Diamandis and Steve Cutler, Bold.
Actually, talking about Peter, he was also a huge influence in my life when he said, like, he's like, A, people aren't doing big enough things, and B, a great exercise for all entrepreneurs out there is like self-sabotage or kill your own business, right? It's a great exercise. You think your business is going to be here? Bullshit. Like, I mean, be in the future, right? Think of ways to actually sabotage your own business, and that way you can actually improve on your business.
Say what you mean, because people might misconstrue what that means. Because people deal with self-sabotage, right? Where they just unknowing or unconsciously just I want to separate that it's not that. So explain exactly what you mean by sabotage.
Well, look at Uber. That's a great example. So if I own a cab company and all of a sudden an Uber platform comes around for the last 5 years, it's disrupted the game completely. Anybody can become a cab driver, right? Yep. So as a cab owner of a company, not just a car, I should figure out ways like, okay, what are some possibilities in the future that may actually put my business out of business? What tech can put my business out of business? What type of laws can put my business out of business? And then pretty much you have to prepare for that. So something happens in a situation, right? So if Elon's in a situation or Ameer's in a situation, there's two things that occur. Either I react to it or respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
You never want to react to a situation. You're screwed right there.
Yep.
So if your business hits the wall, then you're reacting, you've lost. Instead, you want to respond to the situation, right? So you're pretty much, it's a very stoic philosophy. You want to kind of think in the future, what are possible ways that my business can be shut down by somebody externally, whether that's the government, whether that is new technology, whether that is a competitor, and then prepare for that, kind of like a will,
Yeah.
right? So when that situation comes, which it will always, right? Business is fractal. Business is anti-fragile, as Nassim Taleb talks about. There's no such thing as stable businesses, right? And this
Not
is
anymore.
Corporations have failed. There's no such thing as hyper growth. You can't keep on growing 400, 500% a year and expect to keep on returning profits for the shareholders. It doesn't exist that way, right? So you always have to prepare yourself and respond to the situation. And if you do this, if you're honest with yourself, you're going to save yourself a lot of headaches in the future. But this is the most beneficial thing. You're going to be pushing your business to the limits, innovating new things that you never innovated before because you've never been thinking that way. It's a paradigm shift in the whole thought process on how you do business.
Yeah. And I think what you also shared in the 3 companies that you're working on is not only that, but you're also thinking ahead of the curve in a sense of where is the world going to be 10 years from now? And what are the things that people will actually want, need, etc. So with Zap Hires, for example, Uber's obviously changed the game.
Yeah.
That's clear. I think everyone's trying to Uberize everything now. Everything, because the model is brilliant, right? It's simple, it's brilliant. But what Peter said, never before in the world have people interacted with someone across the world, and this person could be a 19-year-old kid with no background of education, different language, etc., and yet he's a magician at creating 3D printing something.
Sure.
And you're like, that's who I need. And so now a CEO who's running a $100 million company can be talking to some kid in his basement because that's the best person in the world to be talking to about that.
Yeah.
And I love that you're kind of creating that interface where people can in fact meet these people.
But it's also, we're eliminating the middleman, the whole like agencies of headhunters. It's complete archaic bullshit.
Oh. Not only that, it's just how many of the people that you've met in business are not necessarily the ones with PhDs and masters and blah, 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 but they're the best at X because they're just geniuses at this one thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I love is you said that thing about Paris. Yeah. I was just talking to this guy, Steven Sisler, and he did this assessment of me.
Yeah, he did my assessment on me. Like, he's a good friend. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing guy. And one of the things I asked him was our business, what I run now with SatoriPrime, is pretty much giving people what is my biggest driver, which is freedom, autonomy, living outside the confines of quote unquote the system. And I asked him, I said, well, I feel like that's limiting now because I'm actually giving people what I want instead of what necessarily they want. And he goes, no, what you do comes to you like breathing. And that's why you do it, because it's easy. So something like this, if I'm really great at X, that to me is like breathing. Now you've given me an opportunity to make money by breathing. Basically.
Well, you have to also look at this. If you're looking at futuristic trends, for example, a lot of service work will disappear. Already in Asia, they have Walmart. Well, Walmart's a little bit different in China, but the McDonald's they're all automated with holograms and robots.
Are you shitting me?
No, seriously.
What does that mean? Like you walk into a McDonald's today and there's a hologram taking your order?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
For real?
Yeah, even some airlines have like concierge like that too. It's pretty crazy tech.
Wow.
So think about how many jobs are actually going to disappear very soon, service-related jobs, because it makes no sense. And I think it's a great thing because I think humans shouldn't be doing these mundane, mentally draining, idiotic jobs. They're ridiculous. You are wasting your life. You have so much gifts and talent inside of you that you can be contributing to the world in a much more beneficial way instead of standing behind a desk and saying, would you like fries with that?
Yeah. Do you think, that's a really interesting point, do you think that that's going to push education from both schools and parents to have their kids start asking themselves different questions to unlock these gifts and talents?
I think the whole educational system is going to see a huge crash first. I think the crash is going to happen it's going to start around 2020, probably 5 years from now. Financially speaking, the whole bubble is going to burst. There's no way to pay it back. Actually, with student loans, that's the only thing that actually stays with you, even if you claim bankruptcy. I can claim bankruptcy in a $10 billion company, and that's that. But my student loans, I got to repay. There's no productivity though. That's the problem, right? So when you take a loan, you have to bring back double productivity, right? To pay back the loan and also to keep yourself going. Correct. So that being said, the whole educational system, globally speaking, will completely see a decline around 2020. And that's why you see big movements happening right now, such as LinkedIn acquiring Lynda for $1.2 billion. You mentioned Peter. Peter's actually opened up his own educational system. Peter Thiel and the other Peter both are opening up their own educational systems. So I think the more privatized systems are coming in and the more actually open source, such as Khan Academies, are going to do a great job. However, I think it's a mental paradigm shift that we actually have to look at. And that is, people are still attached to the fact that if I go to university and I get a piece of paper, that piece of paper means something to me.
Correct.
Right? That piece of paper means I can have an $80,000 job a year and have a house to pay the mortgage and a car, etc. Blah, blah, blah. But that's not the reality, because within that 4 years of you being in that school, your job might be obsolete completely. Mm-hmm. And then again, you're not becoming creative. You're not thinking, right? They're teaching a very linear process. They're not making you become a creative, independent thinker, which is very dangerous. In fact, if you look at the history of our I can't speak for the globe, but at least for Canada, United States, our educational system was re-engineered right after World War I. So circa World War I, so say like roughly around 1914. Before that, it was actually much better, much more of apprenticeship type of model, much more hands-on, much more creative, that you actually use your own mind. However, what happened around that time was the Industrial Revolution. Therefore, we needed people to nod their head, not think for themselves, go into this robotic industrial type of system. So we plop out robots at the end.
Yep.
And now everybody is still thinking in this old way, but there's a saying, right? It's going to get worse before it gets better. So I'm predicting roughly around like 2020, maybe 2025, the whole educational system here is going to go.
Yeah. I mean, I already see it. I think in our entrepreneurial circles, I already start to see the parents start to say, look, this isn't the way that I expanded. This isn't the way that you're going to do what your gift is in the world, because that system is just, like you said, it spits out drones. And I think at some point, the marketing and the branding of university got so good and people just bought it hook, line, and sinker. But that is the monetary of it will fall, and then the marketing will fall behind it, and something else will come out better. You know, there's an Uber for education system also somewhere out there that's going to disrupt and fuck that whole.
Well, look at this. Even YouTube itself is an educational system. Think about it.
YouTube.
Right? Think about that. I think the whole model of like the great example is Yale, Harvard. They actually have online programs, right? So this whole mystique, this whole allure of, I went to Yale and Harvard, it's gone. It's gone, right? They see what's happening. So they're offering online education. And online education, I think, is the way of the future. However, we still have to redesign the old school. I think we have to bring back the old school system into the new school. And that is, we have to start reincorporating this whole mentorship and type of this like coaching type of aspect when it comes to actually learning, because the system right now is very top to bottom hierarchical, right?
Yep.
I see a teacher, the teacher's always right. It's not like ping pong where you're bouncing ideas back and forth. It's very linear, top down. That's not how you learn. Learning is very dynamic, creative. And that's one of the reasons I never went to high school, right? I got kicked out when I was grade 9. I don't belong in there because there's no platform for discussion. It's our way or the highway. Shut up, be quiet, sit down.
Yep.
And this model, it's no good. It's gone. And I think the real people, if you ask like real people that have success, whatever success means for you, financial success, mental success, they'll also agree that the way that we are actually raising our children, not us as parents or society, but in the educational system, it's destroying the very spirit and nature of what it means to be a human being.
Yeah. I mean, if your basic education platform is here's a textbook, memorize this shit, regurgitate it to me, and you give grades based on who can regurgitate that information better, that's a flawed system.
Of course.
That's a flawed system. There's a lot. I just reading a great book called Mindset by Carol Dweck.
Great book. Great TED Talk too.
And her whole thing is, I mean, I couldn't believe some of the stories that she shared, but you're talking about 5-year-old kids, 7-year-old kids reading Shakespeare and Tolstoy and having conversations about this stuff, which to me, as much as advanced as I thought kids could be, I was just like, you got to be kidding me. That's incredible. And yet that just goes to show what we humans are capable of in the right environment.
Yeah.
But I want to just ask you something as just your opinion on. I think the whole apprentice program and the mentorship is really the best way to learn. My mindset shift that I think needs to happen is the millennials today, we've raised them to have instant gratification. Everything is like, I want X, I got X, right? Even the company that your Zap hires it's all
instant gratification, yeah.
Right? Apprenticeship, mastery, etc. takes time.
Sure.
Right? It's a slow boil of 7, 9, 10 years to get that kind of skill. Do you honestly believe that children today have, or I don't think they have it, but can we somehow integrate that back into society where they understand to become masterful takes time?
It does. The whole thing goes back to nature versus nurture, right? If we start instilling at a young age and we promote their creativity and we gear them towards what they naturally are gifted as, right? Their superpowers. Mm-hmm. So if someone, for example, me, they said I have ADD, they wanted to put me on drugs when I was elementary. I barely passed elementary school because I wanted to be outdoors all day. I was very athletic, outgoing. I couldn't sit on can I swear on here?
Absolutely.
I couldn't sit on a fucking chair for 8 hours. You know, I couldn't do that. And it's not natural for a child to be sitting in a chair for that long. And they told my mother a million times I had Ritalin and all this shit. And thank God she never put me on because it didn't make sense for her. However, if we start at a young age actually promoting the natural gifts of children, I think this whole idea of like mentorship being hard, it's not even going to be hard. They're going to view it as, my God, I can't wait to continue doing what I love doing, right? Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss. Imagine we can find out what our bliss is at the age of 10 or 12.
Yeah.
Imagine what kind of impact you as a person that finds your bliss at 10 and 12 can have on this world when you're in your 20s.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I found it very, very late. I think even just when we started SatoriPrime was when I fell in love with mastery and learning in my business world. I always had it in sports or with hobbies, etc. But I agree with you. I mean, if a kid can find not even what necessarily they're passionate about for life, but being passionate about pursuing passion.
Well, look, they're self-motivated. So the problem today, we're always looking for external motivation. Someone telling us we need to do something, right? That's going to fail because we're always dependent on an external source, like a battery.
Yep.
That battery is going to dry out. So we have to be dependent on us internally. We, or you and I, as a human being, must be motivated internally by our own decisions, our own choices from in here. To take onus. And this is why you look at, for example, certain cultures and societies, we used to have a lot of rituals, which we don't have anymore, right? A boy becomes a man. That's a paradigm shift that happens in one day. So you see in the Jewish traditions, right? You see in certain cultures, for example, there's a tribe where, I don't know if you're familiar with the book Dune. Dune actually took this from this tribe. So there's a tribe where they have these like weird banana leaves, and they make them into gloves. And in the gloves, they have about 100 ants. They're about 1 inch long. And these ants, when they bite you, the scientist said it's so painful. The closest thing he can explain to is like taking a hot knife and stabbing you. That's the pain. So there's 100 of them in there. So they have to stick their hands in there. And this is the whole transition, the ritual, right? From becoming a boy to a man. So they put on the gloves and they have to endure the pain. I think it's for like 5 minutes around a circle. And if anybody chickens out afterwards and takes a glove off, well, guess what? You're not a man, right? But if you endure the pain and you survive this, you are a man. And that one small ritual that takes less than half an hour completely sets course for your future. You now have the mental capabilities of understanding that I and me only have to provide for me and my family. I have to hunt food for me and my family. I have to provide shelter for me and my family. Not the government, not a company, not the secure job, nobody else but me. And we're missing this in society, this whole ritual. Obviously, we don't have to go to the extent and get by ants and get bit by ants, but some form of ritual act. It can be so simple of you giving your son a stick. My father gave me this stick, and this stick means you're a man. And give your son a piece of stick, right? It's a symbolic nature, but this symbolism, which is attached to everything, Christianity, Islamic, Judaism, David Star, these are all symbols that were attached to mythologies, right? So if we give our son a stick and it has engravings, that's a symbol. It's part of mythology, right? And your son takes it, he now feels in his mind right away, it's a neurological transformation, he's a man. And it's really powerful. And women have a more natural thing because they have, puberty. All of a sudden they have their monthly cycles. Men don't really have that. So there's a more natural rhythm with women. But then again, we also as a society together need some more rituals. And rituals bring people together, right? So the reason why we have friendships and we bond with people is through experiences.
Yep.
Right? We become closer. The Army, the Navy SEALs have been using this forever, right? They put them through rigorous, crazy situations and circumstances, and they bond together like that. So we're so disconnected today, even though as tech is getting better. In fact, I think we're getting more disconnected with tech. We think talking on Facebook makes our social complete bullshit.
Yep.
We think, go to a bank or go to a club. I haven't been in a club in years, but I guarantee you go to a club, 70% of people are on Twitter. Shit. What's the point of being at the club, man? You know what I mean? I don't know. When I went to the club, I did things different. I'm not old, but I did things my own way. I don't go to a club to be on Twitter, right? So everyone's this thing like this. That's insane, man. Like you can't even talk to me face to face.
No, the connection, but they feel like that's connected. That's the crazy part to me. So yeah, I couldn't agree with Ameer more. I mean, the system in general is broken. I think what's been happening is technology in general is new, relatively new. The internet is new, texting is new, everyone having a phone in their pocket is new. And I think everyone is still trying to figure out how to use it. And what I see happening is we've kind of gone to the complete opposite end of the pendulum swing, which has eliminated connection. But I think what's going to start happening is people are trying to find new ways to use the technology to actually connect with more people. Things like Uber that we described, right? Using technology to actually connect humans to, in this case, taxi drivers. There are going to be more and more systems like this that are going to start using the technology, I think, to bring people back together. But the main thing that I took away from this conversation with Ameer is the fact of education. And we've spoken about this when I talked about Robert Greene's book, Mastery, which if you guys haven't read it, I highly, highly recommend it. It all talks about the greats in our history and how they all came up through this apprenticeship style program. And I think that's the thing we need to start focusing our efforts on with our children. And I'm in inquiry myself to figure out how, in fact, to do that. And I suggest that every single one of you do the same. If you'd like to find out more about Ameer, just make sure you go back and check out our show notes. And I haven't said this for a while, but if you've been enjoying the show, please share it with others. That is the greatest gift and the greatest thank you you can give to me and this podcast. I love putting this content together, and from the emails that I get, you guys are obviously really enjoying it. So if there's something that strikes a chord and you feel like sharing this on Facebook or YouTube or email or whatever and just sharing it with your friends, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And until part 2, have an amazing, amazing day.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Performance Enhancing Podcast. We've taken this pep talk and created a custom action guide so you know exactly what action steps to take now to grow your business. Just head over to SatoriPrime.com/podcast and download it for free. Also, please leave a comment and rate this podcast on iTunes. It'll help us get the word out. Thanks for listening. Now, go and implement. We'll see you next time.
Did you run through doors till you hit the floor? Did you read my eyes and my aching thoughts? Did you walk through walls till you had to grow?